Believe it or not, overlooking this one detail could derail your entire retirement plan. It's the single most important number in your retirement plan. And your ability to control this number is one of the biggest predictors of success in retirement. And I'm not talking about how much you've saved or where you've saved or what your magical financial independence number is. It's about knowing one critical data point that, especially for high earners, they completely miss. So in this video, I'll show you what is the most critical number you have to know before retirement. I'll tell you how to calculate yours. I'll talk about the 3 layers underneath this single number and why this one number has a way of leveling the retirement playing field. Now, this most important retirement planning number, and the number most folks that we talk to struggle to actually answer, it's your lifestyle spending or your burn rate. How much does it take to run your current lifestyle? Now, it may seem silly that some folks can't easily state this figure immediately, but we see this all the time, and especially with higher income folks. At some point, spending becomes hard to track. Either it's happening unconsciously, not necessarily frivolously, but just unconsciously. It gets often buried inside places that lack transparency, say a work vehicle and cell phone expenses that are tucked inside their companies that they own, but they're also used for personal use, that kind of thing. But even for high income folks, as soon as you want to start thinking about planning for your future, this is the first number that you have to understand. And you can't really afford to just throw a dart at it either. Now, why is this so critical? Because it directly impacts how long your retirement savings will last and consequently the quality of your life in retirement. Now, as retirement approaches, getting real about your daily, monthly, and yearly expenditures becomes a non-negotiable. According to Statistics Canada, the average household spending for those age 65 and older was approximately $61,855 in 2021 versus $92,500 for Canadians of all age ranges. This number only scratches the surface, as individual lifestyles can obviously significantly influence that figure. This 2019 report from Fidelity found that you should expect to spend between 50 and 80% of your current income annually in retirement. Well, that's a massive range. That leads to a pile of questions too. Is that before tax or after tax? Canadian tax? Is that a US report? What about if I actually want to do more after I retire than I'm able to do now when I'm still tied to my job? I suppose without a clear understanding of your personal spending habits, these rules of thumb perhaps could be helpful, but you really don't want your planning for a financially secure retirement to be based on these kinds of shots in the dark, really. So here are some ways you can think through what your spending might look like in retirement. First, it may be helpful to think of your expenses in layers. The basics, leisure, and then luxury. The basics would cover your non-negotiables. Think housing, food, healthcare, utilities, expenses that will persist throughout retirement. Leisure is going to include activities that will enrich your life. So things like travel, bucket list trips, or European river cruises. Hobbies, so maybe golf, art, gardening, and dining out. Perhaps wine club memberships, hosting dinner parties, or extended family functions. Now, lastly, luxury represents the indulgences that are nice to have, but not essential. Here we're thinking beyond high-end travel, 5-star accommodations, exclusive experiences, a private villa in Tuscany or a chartered yacht in the Caribbean. Could also be home renos with higher end finishes, the home theater, the wine cellar, the landscaped garden, or perhaps even personal services, trainers, regular spa treatments, lawn service, cleaners, whatever it may be. So as you think about your spending in retirement, organize all of those anticipated spending areas into these 3 buckets. Forget about tax at this point. You can figure out where you'll get this money and from what bucket, from what source later. We'll do that later. Right now, just think about your net after-tax spending. Now, in general, what we see and what the data supports is that over time, these expense categories will evolve. It's well documented that while overall spending tends to decrease in retirement, healthcare costs predictably rise. Identifying and planning for these changes is pretty crucial. By understanding your expenses in this layered manner, you're going to be better equipped to adjust your spending in line with real-world changes, ensuring that your retirement savings aligns closely with your lifestyle habits, needs, and desires. By the way, if we haven't ever met, my name's Steve Willems. I'm a wealth advisor here with the Willems Wealth Planning Group out here in BC. We started this channel to help you plan for your own retirement, helping you think about how to plan and arrange your investments, your income streams, and ideally have you pay less tax along the way. So let's dive a little bit deeper and break down those common expense categories to anticipate changes as you transition into retirement. So firstly, that basic category, expenses like housing, utilities, groceries, insurance often remain constant. However, mortgage payments may fall off if you've planned to pay off your home before retirement. This is going to provide a pretty significant monthly savings, obviously. According to a Canadian Financial Capability Survey, only about 17% of Canadian seniors aged 65 or older have a mortgage in retirement, which significantly impacts monthly outflows. Transportation costs frequently decrease also in retirement. With no daily commute, you might find yourself spending less on gas, parking, maybe public transit. The Canadian Automobile Association, CAA, reports that the average Canadian spends over $10,000 a year annually on an average-sized SUV, a number that can significantly decrease when you're shifting into a retirement lifestyle, or even you get rid of that extra vehicle. Food tends to stay pretty static, and utilities are obviously out of our control, although some do choose, perhaps right before retirement, to blitz going all out on electric, maybe solar on the roof, an EV in the garage, as a means of combating against those higher utility expenses in retirement. So that's what you're looking at for basic expenses. Add up annual estimates for those key basic subcategories. That's your starting point. Now, leisure expenses can go both ways. You might spend more on hobbies, travel, and entertainment now that you have more free time. However, these expenses are within your control. They can also be adjusted based on your financial situation. For example, travel could shift from international trips to more local or domestic vacations, depending on your budget. A conservative assumption here is that leisure spending actually takes a small step up for a period of time immediately after your retirement. Say an extra $10,000 a year for 10 years as just added cushion. And often that's for guilt-free spending on some of these leisure categories. Healthcare costs are a category that often increase. I mentioned it here as it can land in either a basic or maybe even a luxury box. As we age, medical expenses can become a more significant part of our budget. In Canada, obviously, most of that will be covered through your provincial coverages, but for some discretionary procedures or lifestyle choices, this can actually maybe be deemed as a luxury, say flying down to Mexico for knee or hip replacements, or opting for the amenity-rich, private-funded, independent living arrangements that you might have up here in Canada later. Assuming basic and leisure needs are met and adequately funded and backstopped by a solid financial plan, these luxuries become add-ons that can be reasonably considered. Now, when you take enough time thinking about this, or even talking to friends about their own spending plans in retirement, it becomes increasingly clear that there's no magical monthly retirement spend, a one-size-fits-all approach. Your number will be deeply intertwined with your values. What truly drives happiness and satisfaction in retirement, most people say, isn't the accumulation of stuff, but rather the experiences and the life that you build with what you have, the conversion of those dollars into things that produce nostalgia. Research in the area of happiness consistently underscores one key finding. Experiences bring more lasting joy than material possessions. A study from Cornell University reveals that the anticipation of an experience, such as a trip or maybe a concert, can provide happiness for days or even weeks before the event itself. In contrast, the initial excitement over a new purchase often fades quickly. It leads to this continuous cycle of wanting more. This phenomenon, known as the hedonic treadmill, suggests that investing in experiences over things can often lead to greater, more sustained levels of happiness. And in retirement, that's what we're solving for. In the context of retirement planning, this data drives home the importance of budgeting for experiences that align with your values, whether that be travel, spending time with your family, engaging in those hobbies we talked about. For example, reallocating funds from luxury expenses that no longer serve you towards experiences like educational classes or charitable giving can often enhance your sense of fulfillment and contribute to a richer and more meaningful retirement. Now, I understand this isn't really easy work either. I'm sorry. This matching of your money with your values is a deliberate process. Conscious choices about where your money goes with the goal of maximizing joy, happiness, ensuring it goes to what's genuinely important to you. Now, by thoughtfully considering what brings you happiness and how your spending can reflect those values, you're going to create a retirement lifestyle that isn't just financially secure, but it's deeply satisfying. And let's remember, retirement is the perfect time to focus on what truly matters to you, making every dollar spent an investment in your own well-being and happiness. Now, once you've done this hard work of mapping out your retirement spending into these three categories of basic spend, leisure spend, and luxury spend, and once you've assumed some of those expenses tailing off, and then when you've thought about how that spending actually aligns with your values, what you say is important to you, then and only then will you unlock a few prizes, rewards, let's call them. Number one, you'll feel more in control through your retirement. You're going to be mitigating any financial anxiety associated with the unknown, allowing you to enter retirement with way more confidence. Number two, you're going to be more financially resilient. Thinking about spending this way will enable you to respond more resiliently to changes in asset performance and market conditions down the road when they eventually happen. And third, you can now optimize your legacy planning because you've thought through one of the biggest variables in your retirement plan. You're going to be able to maintain balance between enjoying your retirement years now and leaving a meaningful legacy for your loved ones or causes that you care about down the road. Now, if the thought of calculating your burn rate feels overwhelming, or if you're just unsure of how to align your spending with those dreams for retirement, we're here to help. Every week we set aside a few slots that you can get your questions answered one-on-one with someone who's seen a situation like yours, likely many times before. If you'd like to grab one of those time slots, I'll put a link in the description below for you to take advantage of that offer. Hey, that's all for today. Your retirement journey is unique, and understanding your lifestyle spending is one of the most important keys to navigating it successfully. I hope that was helpful. Stay tuned for more guidance on making the most of your retirement years. Until then, I'll see you in the next video.